Han-Sol Park stood at the edge of his cabin's wooden porch, watching the morning sun rise over the mountains. His trusted hunting rifle rested against the wall behind him, and his old leather boots showed signs of many years in the wilderness. At 40 years old, he was known as Earth's best hunter, famous for tracking the most dangerous animals without using modern technology. The cool morning air carried the smell of pine trees and wet earth. Han-Sol lifted his coffee mug to take a sip when a bright blue light suddenly filled the sky. He remained calm, even as a small metal sphere, no bigger than a tennis ball, floated down from above and stopped right in front of him. Earth Hunter Han-Sol Park. The sphere spoke in perfect Korean, its surface glowing with each word. The Stellar Hunting Federation sends its greetings. Han-Sol placed his coffee mug on the porch railing. He had heard rumors about aliens watching Earth's hunters, but he had always thought they were just stories told around campfires. "We have observed your hunting methods for the past 5 years," the sphere continued. "Your skills have caught the attention of our supreme huntress, Doohy." The sphere projected a hologram showing a tall, elegant alien figure. She looked almost human, except for her silver skin and large, dark eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. Her hunting gear appeared both beautiful and deadly. "I am honored," Han-Sol said simply, maintaining his usual calm. "But why contact me now?" The sphere's light pulsed gently as it explained. "The Federation hosts a competition every 50 Earth years. Hunters from across 3 galaxies come to prove their skills. Supreme Huntress Do, he personally requests your participation." Han-Sol walked to the cabin's door and picked up his old leather bag. Inside were his basic hunting tools, a knife, some rope, and simple tracking equipment. No fancy gadgets or modern technology. These tools had helped him track and catch everything from small deer to dangerous tigers. "Most participants use advanced hunting technology," the sphere added. "But your traditional methods have impressed the Supreme Huntress. She believes you might teach our hunters something valuable." Han-Sol looked at the photos on his cabin wall. They showed him with various animals he had tracked, all captured alive when possible. He never killed unless necessary, preferring to study and understand his prey. "When does this competition begin?" he asked, already knowing he would accept. A true hunter never backed down from a challenge. "A ship will arrive in 3 Earth days," the sphere replied. "You may bring your basic tools, but no modern weapons. The Federation will provide any additional equipment you might need." The sphere started to float away but paused. "Supreme Huntress Do, he also wishes to inform you that you are the first human ever invited to this competition. She hopes you will prove that humanity's hunting traditions deserve respect." As the sphere disappeared into the sky, Han-Sol picked up his rifle and started his morning hunting routine. He had 3 days to prepare, and he would show these advanced aliens that sometimes the old ways were the best ways. In his mind, he could still see the hologram of Supreme Huntress Doohy. There had been something in her eyes, not just wisdom, but curiosity. She wanted to learn from him as much as she wanted to test him. Han-Sol smiled as he walked into the forest. This would be his greatest hunt yet, not for animals, but for something far more valuable, respect for Earth's hunting traditions. And perhaps, though he didn't know it yet, something even more interesting waited for him among the stars. The alien ship landed in the clearing near Han-Sol's cabin exactly 3 days later. It looked like a silver arrow pointing to the sky, smooth and beautiful. Han-Sol stood ready with his leather bag, wearing his usual hunting clothes and boots. He had spent the last 3 days practicing his tracking skills and preparing his tools. A door opened in the ship's side, revealing a tall figure. Supreme Huntress Doohy stepped out, her silver skin gleaming in the morning sun. She was even more impressive in person than in the hologram. Her hunting gear was made of materials Han-Sol had never seen before, but it was clearly designed for practical use. "Welcome, Hunter Han-Sol," she said in clear Korean. Her voice was deep and musical. "I trust you are prepared for the journey." Han-Sol nodded, noting how she moved with the careful grace of an experienced hunter. I bring only what I need, he said, showing his simple bag. Doohey's dark eyes studied his equipment with interest. Fascinating. Most contestants bring cases full of scanning devices and hunting technology. Inside the ship, Han Sol found himself in a large room with other hunters from across the galaxy. Some looked almost human, while others were completely different from anything he had seen before. A woman in modern hunting gear approached him. Another human. Interesting. She extended her hand. I'm Ji-Won, Earth's champion hunter from the Asian Federation. Han Sol shook her hand, surprised to meet another human. Ji-Won's gear was completely modern. Smart fabrics, digital tracking devices, and the latest hunting technology. She represented everything he had chosen not to become. Your methods are outdated, a voice said from behind them. A tall alien hunter named Sang-min stepped forward. His gear looked even more advanced than Ji-Won's. Hunting is about efficiency now, not primitive tracking skills. Doohey's voice cut through the tension. Different methods offer different advantages, Hunter Sang-min. That is why we invited hunters with varying approaches. As the ship took off, Han Sol watched Earth disappear below them. The view of his planet growing smaller made him realize the true scale of this adventure. Doohey stood beside him at the window. Many think I made a mistake inviting you, she said quietly. They believe humans are too primitive for this competition. I believe they have forgotten something important about hunting. What's that? Han Sol asked, turning to meet her dark eyes. That understanding your prey is more important than having the best technology. She gestured to the stars around them. Out there, you will face creatures that no human has ever hunted. Your scanners might fail, your weapons might break, but true hunting skills never fail. The ship accelerated, and the stars became streaks of light. Han Sol felt Doohey's eyes on him as he checked his simple hunting knife and rope. He knew the other hunters were watching too, probably thinking he was foolish to bring such basic tools. The competition begins tomorrow, Doohey announced to everyone. Our first hunting ground is a jungle planet where many hunters have failed before. Prepare yourselves well. As the others went to check their equipment, Han Sol stayed at the window, thinking about tomorrow's challenge. He noticed Doohey watching him with curiosity in her ancient eyes. She seemed to understand something the others didn't. Sometimes the old ways were the best ways to learn new things. The stars streaked past outside, carrying them toward their first challenge. Han Sol smiled slightly. Tomorrow, he would show them all what a human hunter could do with nothing but skill and simple tools. The jungle planet's 3 suns made the air hot and humid. Han Sol stood with the other hunters at their base camp. Listening to Doohey explain their first challenge. Tall trees with purple leaves stretched high above them, and strange bird calls echoed through the forest. Your target is the Shadow Stalker, Doohey announced, showing a hologram of a large cat-like creature with 6 legs and dark fur. It can become nearly invisible in shadows. You must track and capture it alive. Killing is not allowed unless your life is in immediate danger. Sang-min checked his advanced tracking equipment with a confident smile. My sensors will find it in minutes, he said, looking at Han Sol's simple tools with obvious doubt. Ji-Won activated her smart suit, which would help her see heat signatures and movement patterns. Technology gives us an advantage for a reason, she said. This isn't Earth, Han Sol. You can't rely on old methods here. Han Sol knelt down to study the soil instead of responding. The ground was soft, perfect for tracking footprints. He noticed small marks that told him which direction the local animals usually traveled. Even on an alien planet, nature followed certain patterns. You have until sunset to capture your target, Doohey said. Begin now. The other hunters rushed into the jungle, their equipment beeping and flashing. Han Sol walked slowly, studying the environment. He picked up a handful of soil, smelled it, and let it fall through his fingers. Doohey watched him with growing interest. You're not using any tracking devices, she asked, following him. The jungle itself tells me what I need to know, Han Sol replied. He pointed to some broken branches, Something large passed through here recently. The sap is still fresh. Doohie's dark eyes widened as Hansol showed her more signs: disturbed leaves, marks on tree trunks, and the way smaller animals behaved. He was reading the jungle like a book. 2 hours later, they heard frustrated voices. Sangmin's expensive equipment was malfunctioning in the strange magnetic fields of the planet. Jae-won's smart suit was overheating in the Three Suns. But Hansol kept following the trail. He moved silently through the trees, teaching Doohie how to spot the small signs that showed where their prey had gone. She learned quickly, her ancient eyes seeing things in a new way. There, Hansol whispered, pointing to a darker part of the jungle. A shadow moved slightly, showing the outline of their target. The shadow stalker was even larger in person, its 6 legs ready to spring away. Instead of rushing forward with weapons or traps, Hansol did something unexpected. He took out some meat from his bag and placed it on the ground. Then he sat down and waited. "What are you doing?" Doohie whispered. "Hunting isn't just about catching prey," Hansol explained quietly. "It's about understanding it. Look at its eyes. It's curious, not afraid. It has never been hunted before. We can use that." The shadow stalker watched them for a long time. Then, slowly, it moved forward to smell the meat. Hansol remained perfectly still, showing no threat. The creature came closer and closer. With one smooth motion, Hansol threw his rope, catching the creature's middle legs. It tried to run, but Hansol had already planned for this. The rope led the animal in a circle, tangling its legs just as he had intended. Within minutes, the shadow stalker was safely captured, unhurt, and surprisingly calm. Doohie stared at Hansol with new respect in her eyes. "You didn't just capture it," she said softly. "You did it without causing fear or pain. I have never seen hunting like this." Hansol smiled as he checked the rope. Sometimes the gentlest method is the most effective. When the other hunters finally arrived, their advanced equipment damaged or useless, they found Hansol and Doohie sitting calmly near the captured shadow stalker. The creature was eating more meat from Hansol's hand, already trusting him. Doohie's voice carried a note of admiration as she declared, "The first trial is complete. Hunter Hansol has shown us all that there is much to learn from Earth's old ways." News of Hansol's success spread quickly through the hunting vessel. As they traveled to their next destination, other hunters began watching him closely, some with interest, others with growing frustration. Sangmin paced in the ship's main gathering area, his advanced equipment spread out on a table for repairs. The jungle planet's magnetic fields had damaged several expensive pieces. "It was just luck," he said loudly as Hansol entered the room. "Anyone can track an animal that has never been hunted before." Hansol sat quietly at another table, cleaning his simple rope and checking it for wear. He had learned long ago that actions spoke louder than words. The shadow stalker's capture had proved his methods worked, even on an alien world. Doohie entered the room, her silver skin gleaming under the ship's lights. She had spent the previous evening asking Hansol about Earth's hunting traditions. Now she carried an old-style hunting knife, similar to his. "Our next challenge will be different," she announced to everyone. "We're approaching the ice caves of Chorus. Your target will be the Frost Runner, a creature that can sense body heat from great distances." Jae-won smiled, adjusting her smart suit's settings. "Finally, something our technology is perfect for. We can mask our heat signatures completely." But Doohie wasn't finished. To make this challenge fair for all hunting styles, no heat masking technology will be allowed. Sangmin stood up angrily. "What? You're changing the rules because of him?" He pointed at Hansol. "This competition has always been about advancing hunting techniques, not going backward." "True hunting skill should work in any situation," Doohie replied calmly. "If we rely too heavily on technology, we forget the basic skills that made us hunters in the first place." Hansol watched the other hunters react to this news. Some nodded in agreement, while others shared Sangmin's anger. Ji-won looked uncertain. torn between her training and her growing respect for Hansol's methods. Later that evening, Hansol found himself alone in the ship's observation room, watching the stars streak by. Duvy joined him, holding 2 cups of a warm drink that smelled like herbs. "The others think I favor you," she said, handing him a cup. "Perhaps they are right, but not for the reasons they believe." Hansol took a sip of the drink. It reminded him of the tea he made at his cabin. "Why did you really invite me to this competition?" Duvy's dark eyes reflected the passing stars. "Our hunting federation has existed for thousands of years. We have the most advanced technology in 3 galaxies, but recently, our success rates have been dropping. When equipment fails, many of our hunters don't know what to do." She turned to face him. "Then I saw you. You tracked Earth's most dangerous predators with nothing but knowledge and simple tools. You showed respect for your prey. You understood that hunting is not just about the capture, but about learning from the wild itself." Their conversation was interrupted by Sangmin entering the room. He carried a small device that projected hunting statistics. "Look at these numbers," he said to Dewey. "Traditional methods take longer. They're less efficient. We can't go backward just because one human had some success." Hansol finished his drink in silence and stood to leave. At the door, he paused. "Tomorrow in the ice caves, we'll see what matters more, efficiency or understanding." As he walked away, he heard he say quietly to Sangmin, "Sometimes, to move forward, we must remember what we have left behind." The ship continued through space, carrying them toward the ice caves and their next challenge. Tomorrow would test not just their hunting skills, but their beliefs about what made a true hunter. The hunting vessel arrived at a planet that looked like a giant black pearl in space. Duvy gathered all the hunters in the ship's main hall for their final briefing. Her silver skin seemed to glow with excitement as she activated a large hologram. "This is the death world of Mera," she said, showing images of a dark landscape filled with strange rock formations. "It is home to the most dangerous predator in known space, the Night Phantom." The hologram changed to show a creature that made even the most experienced hunters step back. It looked like a mix between a wolf and a large cat, but with armor-like scales covering its body. Its eyes glowed with an eerie blue light, and its claws seemed sharp enough to cut through metal. "The Night Phantom hunts in packs," Dewey continued. "They are highly intelligent and have been known to set traps for their prey. No hunter has ever captured one alive." Sangmin checked his repaired equipment with nervous hands. "Why would we want to capture one alive? These creatures have killed hundreds of hunters." "Because," Dewey replied, "they are dying out. We need to understand them better to save their species. This is not just a test of hunting skill. It's a mission to preserve a unique form of life." Hansol studied the hologram carefully. He noticed how the creature moved, how it used its environment. Even in the recorded images, he could see signs of intelligence in its eyes. "For this final challenge," Dewey announced, "you will work in pairs." She looked at her datapad. "Hansol and Sangmin will work together." Both hunters looked at her in surprise. Sangmin started to protest, but Dewey raised her hand to silence him. "You two represent opposite approaches to hunting. Together, you might succeed where others have failed. You must learn to combine your skills." As they prepared for the hunt, Hansol watched Sangmin pack his high-tech gear. The alien hunter seemed worried despite all his advanced equipment. "These creatures," Sangmin said quietly, "they think like us. They study their prey before attacking. My brother," he paused, his voice becoming softer, "my brother was killed by a Night Phantom 5 years ago. His technology didn't save him." Hansol nodded, understanding the fear behind Sangmin's anger now. "Then let's work together. Your technology can help us spot them, and my methods can help us understand them." Dewey approached them before they left the ship. "The Night Phantoms are most active when all 3 moons are in the sky. You have 6 hours to find and capture one. Remember, they are as intelligent as you are, perhaps even more so." As Han Sol and Sang-min stepped onto the dark planet's surface, the air felt heavy and cold. Strange plants glowed with weak blue light, creating moving shadows everywhere. In the distance, they heard a sound that was half roar, half whistle. "They're already watching us," Han Sol said, noticing slight movements in the darkness. "Your scanner, can it tell how many?" Sang-min checked his equipment, his hand shaking slightly. 3. No, 5 of them. They're circling us. He looked at Han Sol. "What do we do?" Han Sol took out his rope and knife, then smiled slightly. "First, we stop acting like hunters. On this world, we're the prey. And that's exactly what we'll use to our advantage." Above them, all 3 moons began to rise, casting multiple shadows across the dark landscape. The hunt was about to begin, but not in the way anyone expected. The 3 moons of the Death World cast strange shadows across the dark landscape. Han Sol and Sang-min stood back to back as 5 night phantoms circled them. The creatures' blue eyes glowed in the darkness, moving like ghost lights around them. "Your scanner," Han Sol whispered. "Can it tell which one is the pack leader?" Sang-min checked his device with steady hands, having found some calm in their desperate situation. "The largest one, to our left. It's almost twice the size of the others." Han Sol studied the leader's movements carefully. The creature was smart, coordinating the others with small sounds that reminded him of wolf calls on Earth. But there was something else in those intelligent eyes. Curiosity. "They're not hunting us yet," Han Sol said. "They're studying us, learning about us, just like we study them." Suddenly, Sang-min's equipment started making strange noises. The screen flickered and went dark. "They're doing something," he said, trying to restart his devices. "Some kind of natural electromagnetic field. All my gear is dead." The night phantoms moved closer, their armored scales gleaming under the moonlight. Without his technology, Sang-min felt helpless. "What do we do now?" "Watch them," Han Sol said calmly. "See how they move. Listen to how they communicate. Everything we need to know, they're showing us." The pack leader stepped forward, its massive form even more impressive up close. It made a series of whistling sounds, and the other night phantoms responded, moving into new positions. "They hunt like ancient human tribes did," Han Sol explained, reaching slowly into his bag. "They're not just animals acting on instinct. They're planning, thinking." He took out some dried meat from his bag, the same kind he had used with the Shadow Stalker. But this time, he did something different. He divided it into 6 equal pieces and placed them in a circle around himself and Sang-min. "What are you doing?" Sang-min asked, watching the night phantom's reaction. "Showing respect," Han Sol replied. On Earth, ancient hunters would share their food with wolves, gradually turning enemies into allies. These creatures are far more intelligent than wolves. The pack leader watched them with its glowing blue eyes, clearly understanding that something important was happening. It made another whistling sound, different from before. "Look at their body language," Han Sol told Sang-min. "They're curious now, not aggressive. Your scanning technology tried to study them from a distance. But sometimes, to understand a creature, you have to meet it on its own terms." The pack leader approached one piece of meat, sniffed it, then did something remarkable. It picked up the meat and brought it back to share with the others. This wasn't just animal behavior. It was a social gesture. "Now," Han Sol whispered, "watch what I do, and be ready. We're not going to capture them. We're going to let them choose to come with us." Over the next hour, Han Sol showed Sang-min how to read the night phantom's signals, how to respond to their calls, and how to show respect for their intelligence. Slowly, the creatures began to interact with them, not as predator and prey, but as equals. By the time their 6 hours were nearly up, the pack leader had allowed them to approach and even touch its armored scales. More importantly, it seemed to understand their intentions through their actions. "I was wrong," Sang-min admitted, watching the magnificent creatures with new eyes. "All my technology, and I never truly saw them until now." The pack leader made a decision. When Han Sol and Sang-min started walking back to their landing point, it followed them voluntarily. And where the leader went, the pack followed. The main hall of the Stellar Hunting Federation was filled with hunters from across 3 galaxies. They had all gathered to witness something unprecedented, a night phantom pack walking freely among them. The pack leader stayed close to Han Sol, its blue eyes watching the crowd with intelligent curiosity. Doohy stood on the central platform, her silver skin glowing under the grand lights. "Today marks a historic moment in the Federation's history," she announced. "For the first time, we have not just captured a night phantom. We have earned their trust and cooperation." Sang-min stepped forward, standing beside Han Sol. "I want to speak," he said, his voice carrying through the hall. Everyone grew quiet, knowing his history with the night phantoms. "5 years ago, I lost my brother to these creatures," Sang-min continued. "I blamed their savagery. I thought better technology was the answer to becoming a superior hunter." He placed his hand on the pack leader's armored scales. "I was wrong. Han Sol showed me that true hunting isn't about dominance. It's about understanding." The pack leader made a soft whistling sound, and the other night phantoms moved closer to Han Sol and Sang-min. The crowd watched in amazement as these feared predators behaved like respected allies rather than captured prey. Doohy walked down from the platform to stand beside Han Sol. "Our federation has existed for thousands of years," she said. "We have developed the most advanced hunting technology in known space, but somewhere along the way, we forgot the most important hunting tool." She touched her chest, "the ability to understand and respect our prey." Jaiwan, who had watched everything with growing interest, spoke up from the crowd. "But surely we don't need to abandon our technology completely." Han Sol shook his head. "Technology is a tool, like my rope and knife. The problem isn't the tool. It's forgetting that tools serve the hunter, not the other way around. When we rely too much on our tools, we stop developing our most important skills." Doohy nodded in agreement. "Therefore, I am announcing changes to how the Federation operates. From now on, all hunters will learn traditional tracking and understanding methods before using advanced technology. Han Sol has agreed to help create this new training program." The Night Phantom pack leader stepped forward and made a series of complex whistles. To everyone's surprise, Han Sol responded with similar sounds. He had learned their basic communication during their time together. "What did it say?" Sang-min asked, amazed at this development. "It said their kind will help us learn," Han Sol translated. "They want to teach us as much as they want to learn from us. They'd been watching us for years, waiting for hunters who would treat them as equals." Doohy turned to address the gathered hunters. "This is the future of hunting, not just the pursuit of prey, but the building of understanding between species. Today, we have not just gained new knowledge, we have gained new allies." The pack leader moved to stand between Han Sol and Doohy, its intelligent eyes moving between them. The gesture seemed to carry special meaning, and Doohy's silver skin took on a slight blush. "Perhaps," she said softly, looking at Han Sol, "we have gained even more than that." 1 month after the Night Phantom encounter, Han Sol stood in his new teaching space aboard the Federation's main station. The room was simple, with basic hunting tools hanging on the walls and a large window showing the stars outside. 20 young hunters from different species sat before him, eager to learn Earth's traditional hunting methods. "Today's lesson isn't about tools or techniques," Han Sol said, walking among his students. "It's about listening to the world around you. Every creature tells a story. We just need to learn how to read it." Doohy watched from the doorway, smiling as she saw the students hanging on his every word. Her silver skin seemed to glow whenever she was near him now, a fact that hadn't gone unnoticed by others in the Federation. The Night Phantom pack had chosen to stay at the station, helping with the training program. The pack leader lay in a corner of the classroom, its blue eyes following Han Sol as he taught. Sometimes it would add its own whistles and calls, which Han Sol would translate for the students. "Supreme Huntress," Sang-min said, approaching Dewey at the door. "The council has reviewed our new training results. Success rates are already improving. Hunters who learn the traditional methods first are showing better judgment in the field." Dewey nodded, pleased. "And how is your new role as head of technology integration?" Sangnin smiled. "Better than expected. When we combine old wisdom with new tools, we achieve things neither approach could do alone." Han Sol was right. It was never about choosing between tradition and technology. It was about finding balance. After the class ended, Han Sol found himself alone with Dewey in the observation deck. The station orbited a beautiful blue gas giant, its rings creating rainbow colors in space. "I have something to ask you," Dewey said, her ancient eyes meeting his. "The Federation is expanding. We're building new training centers on different worlds. Each one will need experienced leaders who understand both hunting and teaching." Han Sol looked at her carefully. "You're not just talking about teaching positions, are you?" Dewey's silver skin sparkled in the starlight. "No, I'm talking about partnerships. The Federation needs leaders who can show different species how to work together, how to understand each other." She paused, then added softly, "Like we have." The Night Phantom pack leader appeared silently beside them, making a series of gentle whistles. Han Sol laughed at the translation. "What did it say?" Dewey asked, curious. "It said, a hunter like that deserves to pass on his genes. Apparently, it's been trying to play matchmaker all along." Dewey's laughter joined his, the sound echoing through the observation deck. "Well," she said, taking his hand, "who are we to argue with such an intelligent creature?" Below them, the station's docking bay opened to receive a new group of hunters arriving for training. Among them were representatives from Earth, coming to learn the combination of traditional and advanced methods that Han Sol and Dewey had pioneered. "So," Han Sol said, squeezing her hand gently, "which training center would you like to build first?" Dewey smiled, her dark eyes full of possibilities. "I was thinking we could start on Earth. After all, that's where this journey began." The Night Phantom pack leader made a satisfied sound and left them alone, its job as matchmaker apparently complete. As Han Sol and Dewey planned their future together, the stars stretched endlessly before them, promising new adventures and discoveries for hunters of all species who were willing to learn from each other.